in his words, and their turnaround plans, well, they're not there yet either. At the same time, though, it looks like the president may actually throw another lifeline to GM and Chrysler. The administration expected to make a pretty big announcement tomorrow that billions of more taxpayer dollars will be going to the struggling car companies. So is the president sending mixed messages, and will opening the vault put the car companies on the road to viability? Let's ask Congressman Dan Burton, a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and Congressman Brad Sherman, a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Gentlemen, great to have you both on. Congressman Burton, in an interview with CBS's Face the Nation today, President Obama said that the auto companies must do more to receive additional financial aid from the government. But then at the same time, we're hearing that aid is likely to be announced tomorrow. So what kind of message is that sending?
Well, you know, the thing that concerns me the most is what kind of a plan Chrysler and General Motors have that's going to justify any kind of a loan or guarantee from the federal government. I mean, they received billions of dollars already, and the problem still exists there. So before any money goes to either one of those companies, I want to make sure we know what the money's being used for, what they're doing with it, and what the plan is. We haven't seen any plan whatsoever. And when you're talking about the taxpayers' money, you really need to be very careful about how it's spent. You need to know where it's going.
Well, that's what I'd like to know, Congressman Sherman. Where is the money going? A lot of our viewers have been emailing saying, well, at least this time, if we know where the money's going, then maybe it's a good investment. Do we know where the money's going?
I think the plan will be laid out tomorrow, but the goal here is to put some real pressure on the bondholders. And if they are willing to accept mostly stock, then I think that General Motors and Chrysler can be made profitable. Their operations, I think, are going relatively well, but they have this huge debt load that they're having to pay on. But the real contrast is between AIG on the one hand and General Motors on the other. The bondholders in General Motors are going to end up taking maybe only a third of the money in cash, whereas with AIG, where the bondholders and the counterparties were the most powerful entities on Wall Street and in the world, they're demanding and getting every penny. So you get 33 cents on the dollar if you invest in American industry, but you get every penny on the dollar if you invest in the AIG casino, if you happen to be Goldman Sachs or one of the big European banks. That's where the bulk of our TARP money, our bailout money is going.
GM is hoping for another $16 billion. Chrysler needs $5 billion more. I mean, it almost seems at this point that you can just ask Congress for money, and it could be the most ridiculous amount of money, and it doesn't even matter because it doesn't seem Congress is doing their homework. I'm sorry, but they're handing out money like it's falling off of trees. Congressman Burton,
No,
I mean, I'm sorry, did I misunderstand? Is money falling off of trees in Washington?
Well, they're printing it pretty fast down at the Treasury Department. And when you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money and the long-term consequences of all this spending, you have to really step back and say, what in the world are we doing? I haven't voted for any of these spending bills, and the reason I haven't is because we really haven't had any accountability or any prospects of accountability. My colleague just talked about AIG. That was a terrible example. We shouldn't have been giving them all that bailout money. And right now we're talking about adding to the problem by giving Chrysler and General Motors bailout money without any concrete plan. Now, I'm anxious to see what the president's going to say tomorrow, but he's going to have to make some pretty strong arguments if he's going to get a vote for me on this thing.
Congressman Burton, there's a local dispute between Chrysler and Tipton County, Indiana, and I understand that you have personally asked Geithner to make sure Chrysler pays Tipton millions back in money owed before giving them any of the bailout money. And then you, I understand, made a phone call to Treasury Secretary Geithner. I mean, are they going to make them be responsible to pay back this money to Tipton, Indiana, Tipton County, Indiana, before they get the money? Are they going to have time to pay back?
That's what I wanted to happen. Unfortunately, there's no commitment made to make Tipton County whole, and they're going to have that a lot of money onto the property taxpayers there because Chrysler has not lived up to their commitment. And see, this is part of the problem with the plan or no planning that really bothers me. They have this obligation to part of my district, and they're not doing anything about it. And at the same time, they're going to get $5 billion from the taxpayers. I mean, we really need to know where the money's going. We need to know, make sure they're living up to their commitments before we give them a dime.
Congressman Sherman, my question is, by bailing out irresponsible businesses, is the government essentially rewarding bad behavior? I want to read two tweets on Twitter. we're big into Twitter here. Conservo Girl writes, let them go into bankruptcy like the rest of us when they use poor judgment. On Moonlight Bay writes, propping up failing companies with bailout leads to endless bailouts. Without the ability to fail, true success is impossible. Your reaction?
Well, in fact, the big auto companies are in a quasi-pre-bankruptcy. That's why the UAW has already made major concessions. That's why the retirees will be making major concessions. The bondholders have to step up to the plate as well. Major concessions have already been made. And those concessions are massive. Then you compare it to AIG, which should be in receivership, similar to bankruptcy, and instead, $170 billion is made so that their creditors get every penny on the dollar, because their creditors aren't that small county in Indiana. Their creditors are the powerful interests on Wall Street and the big banks around the world. General Motors is negotiating a decline in its contractual obligations. AIG, we're told, has to pay these enormous bonuses because their contracts are sacrosanct. Well, what about the UAW contract? That's being shredded. What's the difference? Wall Street has the power, Detroit doesn't.
All right, Congressman Brad Sherman and Congressman Dan Burton, great to have you both on. An interesting debate. Thank you very much.